In the end, Presepe spent the entire night without getting a wink of sleep. Like this, couldn't I die of exhaustion before I even found my way out of the game? It was possible. Her image in the mirror was pitifully miserable. Her skin is pale, and the circles under her eyes are dark, as if someone had messed around with a black crayon underneath. First, and apparently the most effective way to completely subvert the system, is to choose on selection day someone who is not one of the predetermined male characters in the game. Choice day is less than 2 months away, and it is Presepe's birthday. In fact, it wasn't that complicated. Before the flaw appeared, that is, according to the original system, on the morning of the selection day, Presepe was allowed to choose a male character to spend her birthday with. For example, if she chooses Dietrich, it is enough for her to spend with him until midnight. Of course, choices will still appear until the last minute. In other words, she has to reach 100% affection level before midnight. But now the situation has changed. She had departed from the predetermined course of the game a long time ago, and even the options no longer appeared except with the male characters she met for the first time in this round. Other than that, she acted freely and did things that she had never done before many times. As for fixed events, they never happened. For example, the hunting festival event was supposed to start at this time, but since she left the Imperial Palace, the festival and its contents became something completely unrelated to her. So, the game was veering in an unpredictable direction, but from another perspective, that wasn't such a bad thing for Presepe. Because when the selection day comes, the system will not be able to force her to choose one of the predetermined characters to spend the last day with. If it was serious about destroying the entire system, perhaps the emergence of this defect would have been an undeniable blessing. No matter what happens, Selection Day remains one of the main pillars of the game Precipe in the Cage, as the story was originally designed to end there. The essence of any game of this type is, who will the heroine choose and how will she lead him to what end? So far, this has been a good conclusion and plan. But what about the Duke? The problem was Fenric. Even if he says he's willing to do anything for me, isn't that deceit? Isn't it exaggerated? The more Presepe remembered Fenric's face as he begged her to love him, and his little voice with a tremor in it, the more she felt the weight of it. What if I told him everything honestly? Maybe that's better. But she didn't know how he would respond, and he might not even believe her at all. And even if he did, she wouldn't blame him if he didn't believe her. Then, if we assume that after knowing everything, he decides to put up with it and help me anyway. Will my heart be okay? Even now, my heart is shaking at his mere confession. Will I still be able to simply think, as I did before, that all that matters is that I get out of the game? It was like a ball of inextricably tangled threads, endlessly rolling inside her head. The only thing that distracted her thoughts a little was Hannah's entry. Miss Presepe. This is Hannah. May I come in? Come in. As soon as she answered, she quickly adjusted her appearance a little, as she did not want to worry Hannah anymore. Did you sleep well? By the way, the Duke told me. He said you stayed by his side until he woke up, eh? Hannah's eyes narrowed as she stared at her. But the Duke said you went to sleep. Why do you look tired then? Are you showing signs of fatigue? Maybe that's really the reason. The Duke is waiting for you to have breakfast together now. And then, don't you think you'd better take a nap? I think that would be good. Miss Presepe? When she did not receive any response despite continuing to speak, Hannah furrowed her eyebrows in surprise. Hannah, yes. Tell me anything, and I will help you with whatever you want. Hannah couldn't finish her words. Miss Presepe, why? Hannah muttered in confusion in her arms, but Presepe did not let go of her, but began patting her back gently. I'm sorry, because I took the flowers at that time without paying for them. The little girl who was crying bitterly behind Fenric, just looking at her face is enough to know how harsh her life on the streets was. It was none other than Hannah. And so happy to see you again. Really? It was a little different for Fenric, who had been in the same vicious circle as me, and had endured a lot to get close to me. But now, her round cheeks were full of flesh, and she was healthier, and this made Precipice's heart clench with emotion. She was proud of her because despite such a difficult childhood, she had grown up to be such a bright girl. Perhaps that was why she was always following her around like a little puppy, talking to her excitedly without stopping. Even her words in their first meeting, when she said, "You don't know how much I missed you," must have really meant it. With this thought, Presepe felt even more grateful for the little Hannah in front of her. Miss Presepe, perhaps Hannah realized that Presepe was remembering the past, so she paused, then continued in a hoarse voice, "I'm sorry too." She added, "Then, my flowers were a little wilted. I kept regretting it, thinking that I should have given you more beautiful flowers." She was beautiful as she was, because she was from you and the Duke. Truly? Hannah pulled away slightly, raising her head to look at Presepe. Naturally. Hannah wiped her nose while smiling again and said with her usual enthusiasm, "Don't worry about anything anymore, Miss Presepe." Huh? The Duke made a tremendous effort. He fought many wars. When he heard that you were detained in the Imperial Palace, he was extremely worried. But now we're finally together. And we always will be. I promise you that. Oh. Hannah doesn't know what happened between me and the other characters, nor that I was repeating the same episode over and over again. But, on the day of the party, you threw yourself into the lake in front of my eyes. I jumped in with you and saved you, and that was the last thing that happened. Maybe that's why. Because only the Duke was there, he was probably the only one involved in my going back in time. Fortunately. Hannah doesn't know this truth. You have to go to breakfast first. Hannah said cheerfully, not knowing what Presepe had in mind. The Duke is waiting for you. I had offered to bring his food to bed so he could rest, but he insisted on having breakfast with you. Come on, get up quickly. You've been spending the past few days without eating well. No matter how Presepe responded, Hannah kept pushing her to get up, until finally Presepe had to get up and walk with her out of the bedroom. Breakfast was prepared on the spacious terrace of the villa. A gentle breeze carried with it the fragrant flowers that filled the garden, and the warm rays of the sun shone moderately. Fenric, as Hannah said, had sat waiting for her. "Good morning, Miss Presepe." Fenric smiled his usual smile as he greeted. "Yes, good morning indeed. Wait a minute. I will ask to bring food." Hannah ran away, leaving an awkward silence behind her. A silence that had not bothered her before, but now it seemed heavy, as she became aware that she was becoming more aware of the Duke's presence. In order not to show her annoyance, she was about to start the conversation, but Fenric was one step ahead of her. "I was worried." "What? Worried about what?" "I was afraid you wouldn't have breakfast with me." I wouldn't do that to you." "That's good. I had a plan in place if that happened, but it looks like I won't need it." "What plan?" "Nothing major." He shrugged his shoulders with a smile. "I would abstain from eating until you think, this poor thing is going to die. I have to at least eat with him out of pity, because I will be really sad. Very sad. But I'm glad you came. And thank you for that smile." She knew that such joking words were kind of caring. They lightened the atmosphere and removed the tension. Because she did not want the atmosphere to remain tense, she said with a smile, "I didn't expect you to know how to pamper yourself in such a nice way, Duke. I would be grateful if you thought it was nice, but I would be even more grateful if you believed it was really from my heart." She smiled lightly, and meanwhile the servants began placing many plates on the table. The food in his palace had never been simple, but today the attention to detail seemed clearer than ever. "Eat well. Otherwise, Hannah will be very sad," Fenric said, looking at her. "She has been toiling in the kitchen since dawn, and of course, I will be sadder than her." "Okay, I get it." She replied with a small smile, then extended her hand towards the knife and fork, but a guest suddenly came. Duke Fenric. It was Kevin, his face as pale as ash. What's wrong? As soon as Kevin saw his face, Fenric knew there was a problem. He asked in a strict tone different from his tone with Presepe, and he received the response that no one expected: the Grand Wizard Ivan was found dead.